Hello, Louise here from Boost Your Career, and today in Boost Talk I'm speaking with Penny Curnow, who is CEO of NeuroCapability. And this is an organisation that talks about how it will change the world one brain at a time. And Penny and I are talking about confidence and how we can train our brains to be confident. It's a fascinating study. She talks about being in the driver's seat of your brain so that you're making a difference with the decisions that you make and the impact that you have. It's a fabulous conversation. Join us, enjoy, and I'll see you over on Boost Your Career website. Well, hello, Louise here from Boost Your Career, and welcome to another Boost Talk. Today I am in conversation with Penny Curnow, who is, well, her passion lies in neuroscience, leadership, psychological safety in the workplace. And Penny is CEO of NeuroCapability. And this is an organisation that commits to changing the world one brain at a time. Welcome, Penny.
Thanks, Louise. You did that perfectly.
Love the whole fact of changing the world one brain at a time, particularly because today we're talking about neuroscience and confidence. And the topic that we assigned ourselves, God help us, is train your brain to boost your confidence. You can't get a bigger topic than that. And in fact, I was in Sydney last week talking to a group of women around this very thing. And I said to them, stay tuned. I'm speaking with Penny next week.
Yeah.
You'll be able to hear the expert talk about it. So welcome, Penny. I'm so excited to have you here. But before we dive in, I like to start Boost Talk with a little bit of a personal journey. So I'm hoping you can share some details of your career journey and perhaps some of the key factors that created and sustained that journey.
I would love to, and I would have loved to have been in that room with you last week in Sydney as well, just quietly. I think that would have been amazing. Yeah, it would have been wonderful. So I'm actually going to start backwards to come forwards, if that's okay.
Oh, I would expect nothing less.
I think, you know, we all have that pathway of discovery, that extra brick in our career that leads us to make, you know, our wall. But I want to start off with the end of the career with a thought that was given to me, and that was, where do you want to end up as you're transitioning out of your career and into another transitional period? Some people call it retirement. I would call it further study because I love my study. And it really made me think, and this was in my 40s that I had that question asked. And that really drove what decisions I made around what that career looked like. Because up till that point, I was zigzagging. I was grabbing this and grabbing that and doing this, doing that. And I didn't really know who I wanted to be until I was about 38, when I fell into neuroscience, because none of it made sense to me. The world did not make sense to me at all. And I didn't have mentors, and I didn't have guides, and I did not have those people to guide you until I decided on that.
Wow. That's a fabulous question. I was talking to someone last week about your dream job, and she was saying that that'll never happen unless you plan for it. And she was talking about the very same thing that you're talking about. I will actually let her know, where do you want to end up, is a fabulous question. Yeah. And it got you here.
Well, it got me here because what I wanted to do, where I wanted to end up, was in a job that made my heart sing and gave me joy every day. And I mean, there are moments that joy, trust me.
Of course. Things paperwork.
Yeah. It's a seesaw. But where did I want to end up was with that joy. I wanted to work with people that wanted to work and wanted to do good work.
Yeah.
I wanted to have joy, but I wanted to also do the work that actually mattered. And that's where I wanted to end up. And that's where I'm at right now. That's what's led me to here. And I think that's really, really important. And then I want to also tell you about a man I met on a plane that rocked my world.
Hey.
I was doing a lot of consulting, a lot of leadership consulting. So I was on a plane every second day doing whatever you do when you're doing your consulting and you're very, very busy. And in those days, I didn't want to talk to anyone on the plane.
Mm.
And I, was very busy with my headphones, very busy with myself, very, very busy, not wanting to talk. And this man sat down, really big man, big presence on the plane. He walked on, had the phone. The air hostess is going, "Excuse me, sir, we're shutting the doors." He was one of those men. And I thought, oh my Lord, he's one of those men. He sat down and then he started to talk to me. Oh boy, did I learn a valuable lesson that day. He started talking and he said to me, "So, young lady," I really loved that. "So, young lady, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm facilitation, I'm a trainer, I'm a consultant." He said, "Oh, that's really great. Why do you do what you do?" And I said, "Because I'm really passionate." And he said, "No, that's a result." And then I said, "Because I love it." He said, "No, that's a result." And I'm starting to get quite, and I looked at him and I thought, "Well, who are you?" And I said that. I said, "Would you mind? I'm curious. Would you mind letting me know who you are?" He said, "Yes, I'm the chairman of 5 boards. One of them is Greening Australia. The other one was Mr. Rentals, and I can't remember what the other 3 were." And I started to pay attention and I went, "Oh my Lord." And then I remembered I didn't want to talk to anyone. But imagine if I hadn't, because this man so taught me a valuable lesson. And I said, "So why do you do what you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm very clear. I'm the custodian of people's future." He said, "Everything I do, every decision I make is around people's future." And he said, "I'm very clear on what I do and why I do it."
Nice.
He said, "So why do you do what you do?" And I went, "I'm scared now. I don't want to tell you because I don't think I know." He said, "No, you know the result." And he handed me his card and he said, "When you know why you do what you do, and you can tell me that in a sentence, then give me a call." And we had the most amazing conversation in that plane around the decisions he makes, how he makes them, why he makes them. And he is very decisive. And so when you asked that question about your career, what you've done in your career, I'm happy to tell you, but I really think the result is I now know why I do what I do. And I rang him. It took me 4 months. I rang him, and you would not believe this. He answered the phone and said, "You have 5 minutes, young lady. I'm in between board meetings." And I said, "Holly, okay, young lady." Again, love that. I said, "I finally figured it out." And he said, "What's that? Why do you do what you do?" And I said, "I'm the custodian of people's potential." I've said
Nice.
your word.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, that's wonderful. Do stay in touch." And he hung up. And so it's now changed as it does. I now say I ignite people's potential, because for me, where I wanted to end up in my career was about other people's potential. And that's where
Yeah.
I'm at.
Which makes sense that you're looking at NeuroCapability, because that's where it all comes from. You know, we create our own narratives, we create the story of our lives. Why not do it in a way that's incredibly positive and impactful? Oh, thank you. That's a beautiful story, Penny. And how, do you know, the part in that I love is that you remember those events, and they are significant events. And what we often gloss over is our reflective practice is what allows all of those experiences to make sense and to lead us somewhere. I'm constantly harping on about reflective practice, and there's the example that without your own thinking, your own insight, neither of those would have had the impact that they did.
No,
Oh, it's beautiful.
absolutely. Absolutely.
You.
Yeah.
Beautiful story. All right, well, now let's get back to confidence and neuroscience. And I'd like to start with 2 questions.
Wonderful.
One is, how is it possible to train your brain around confidence?
Yeah.
And what impact do you think this can have on your career journey?
Okay. And Matt, you're right. They're really big questions, but
Yeah.
it is possible. It is possible. And one of the things that we always talk about, well, actually the futurists, sorry, are talking about, we're globally connected, but we're becoming more and more interpersonally disconnected.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that rings true.
Yeah. So if we think, and that has come in, flat Earth, oh my Lord, flat earthers actually came in around the globalization when technology became a thing back in the late 90s. There's 3 iterations of that. But that's where the name flat Earth came, because from a technological perspective, we then had a flat Earth. So anyone over in England can speak to us here within seconds.
Yeah.
But it has created a massive disconnection within ourselves. And we're seeing, I spoke to a man this morning, actually, who told me that his daughter at 10 years old was severely depressed. And it's really unfortunate that we're seeing more and more of this, because we're not paying attention to us, to
Yeah.
ourselves. So we like to look at it through a lens of 3: self, others, organizationally, world, house, whatever situation you're in that you want to look at that. Training ourselves, we often we sit in the passenger seat of our brain. We're not in the driver's seat. We're not doing the data entry. We're
No.
mindlessly letting our brain either go, wow, isn't this world amazing? We spend 49% of our time predicting what the world is. And our memories, our everything that we have experienced is only there to inform us on simulating our world that we're about to enter into. So are we in threat? Are we in a fight, flight, freeze? What do we have to do? How is that going to be? So self-awareness is the first key to training your brain. And which self-awareness, they're saying that more and more now, as leaders, as women, in terms of confidence, if you're not self-aware, you don't understand how your brain works, you cannot self-regulate. And confidence is all about that self-regulation. It's about understanding what your triggers are. It's about becoming really clear, like with your why, really, really clear. And I've got something really practical that I'd love to share with you and with everyone
Thanks.
else that people can do straight away. And it was first developed by David, and I've forgotten his name. It'll come to me in a minute.
It's all right.
Scare model. And the scare model is the 5 domains of the brain that need something from us. And the first one is status. So
is this related to the scarf model?
The scarf model, yeah. We call it the scare model.
Okay, yep. No, I was just orienting myself. Okay,
yep. We call it the scare model. It was David Rock's scarf model. We call it the scare model because we like to play a flip on the words. We don't want to scare you. We want to care for you. So the acronym is just flipped. With the scare model, we're looking at status. So, and because we're all from tribes, I know that name has been flippantly thrown around, but if you think about a wonderful sociobiologist, Mr. Wilson, Dr. Wilson, he said we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology.
Oh, look, he's so true. That's exactly what I talk about. That, in terms of organisations, women are at a disadvantage the instant they walk in because it's a medieval institution based around men and men succeeding.
Absolutely spot on. Paleolithic emotions, our emotions have not changed from our tribal times. And we've created this world, the Industrial Revolution created this world that creates a dissonance for most people and women. So when we talk confidence, if we've got a dissonance, if our work life, if we're not able to function the way that our brain does, then there's going to be a mismatch, which is leading to anxiety, depression. So this is all validated science.
Yeah.
This is why I love the scare model. So in our tribe, and this is the other thing, when we're talking about institutions and we have, I don't know whether you've ever heard this, but, oh, that department, we're siloed. They don't talk to each other, right? They don't, there's a reason, because we're still very tribal. We're still very in-group, out-group.
Yeah.
If we can start to think about our brain, be in the driver's seat and go, right, what does this person need that's in front of me? Actually, what do I need? Status. Where do I belong in this world? Now, we've got many worlds. We've got our home world, our work world. And there needs to be we need to know, we need certainty, because that's the other thing. The brain needs certainty. So if I don't feel like I fit in this world right now, where's my confidence? It's not anywhere. Am I certain about the role that I have? Am I certain about my home life, my husband, my children? Am I certain around how they view me?
Yeah.
And do I fit there? Autonomy is the next one. Can I work? Who loves being told how to do something when we are competent, right? So autonomy, we also call it freedom within boundaries. Can we have that autonomy? Do we have it, or are we being micromanaged? Relatedness, how do I relate in this world? Or am I so highly anxious that that is keeping me from being my true authentic self? And then we've got equity. Am I being treated fairly? But equally, am I treating others fairly? So each of the scare model, in this case, we relate to both ourselves and to others. And it's wonderful because we still do the fight, flight, freeze. We still do the threat. If we're in a threat state, and say our status is in a threat state, what are we going to do? We're going to go into protective mode. Our anxiety is going to go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we take ourselves from there and put ourselves in what we call a toward state? How do we manage our arousal states? They're the things that can help with confidence. And I've actually got a booklet that I'm going to send to you all around the scare model. And how you can flip that and how you can work with the scare model. And I've got something I can actually show everyone I call it a quick and dirty, that you can use just before you go into a meeting to check yourself. Before I came on here, I had to really take myself out of a threat state by going, oh, I'm really nervous. I don't do podcasts generally. And I had to go, well, hang on a minute, but you know this.
Yeah.
You know
That's
this.
a conversation. I love how you talked about self-awareness and self-regulation and then gone straight into the scare model, because regardless of who you are, there are situations, and scare identifies those different situations that will prompt a narrative, a self-talk that's either positive or negative, that feeds into that amygdala flight or fight stuff. And it sounds like something you've heard all your life, and yet you haven't connected with, which is why you say be in the driver's seat of your brain, because it's your brain driving all of that from your own experiences, yeah?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And look, I found I'm at the moment about to finish my master's in educational neuroscience, and I'm loving every second of it. And one of the things that I found really, really interesting around that is they got 30 countries into a room and said, is race, creed, religion, is that a thing that will hold us back from learning? And you know what the answer was? No.
Wow. It's
Because we
it's
actually,
how you interpret that. Yeah. So in effect, yes, and it's yes because of how you approach it and the mindset and attitude
correct,
that you take towards it. Yeah, it's a
correct.
fascinating thing, isn't it? So
Well,
so what I'm hearing is you can train
absolutely,
your
100%,
brain,
100%.
and you need to understand it first in terms of how it functions and what it does. So
Yeah.
if that's the case, how important do you see understanding your brain and being in the driver's seat to career success. What are the linkages that you see there?
Massive linkages, massive. And I'll tell you why. As leaders, because we're leading ourselves. It doesn't matter whether you're in a
Yeah.
leadership position or not, right? We're still leading
Yep.
ourselves. And so as a leader of self, and as part of our tribe, the way that our brain works is people model off our behavior, of what we do. So in a career, if you're highly aroused, highly anxious, what ends up happening is your whole brain shuts down and
Yeah.
you end up not being able to do your job properly because the anxiety is there, no confidence whatsoever. So it's about being able to come up with triggers. And I'll tell you one of mine, Louise, and not a lot of people know this. But I've had 5 surgeries on my spine, and there was a period in my life, and I've had many, many months bedridden. There was a period in my life, my left foot had dropped. I was dragging myself around, and the only thing that I could do to make or give myself joy in this time, and I did it for 18 months, was I took myself off. Every morning I woke up before sunrise, dragged myself, I was on crutches, into the
Literally.
car and sat down and watched the sun rise, because I wanted to be able to call on something strong. They call it an episodic memory. So something that a memory you want to form, you put an emotion to it, that's an episodic memory, and you can do that on purpose.
Mm.
That sunrise, every single morning, I think I missed 2 in 18 months. Every time that life got too much or I would get too scared, my anxiety just went rife, that self-talk. Oh, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So that was my anchor. That was my priming my brain. I could remember that 20 minutes of that sunrise, those colors, and it gave me that feeling that I wanted.
Yeah, how beautiful. Is this the connection with hormone release? So, because that's what you would
Neurotransmitters.
releasing particular hormones and the neuroplasticity. Is that where this fits in?
Absolutely. So we call it dosing ourselves. And this is the thing that when you can become really self-aware and have that self-regulation. Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about being the scientist of your own experience. This is Professor Lisa Feldman Barrett. So you can then become the architect. But you can only do that by understanding our self-awareness. So then think about it this way. How are we on purpose in your career? How are we dosing not only ourselves, but our people? And that example with the sun, that was dopamine for me. That was
Yeah.
oxytocin, right? So dosing stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, epinephrine. So you can use this with the scare model. We don't want to scare you, we want to care for you, but also in terms of your career, imagine starting a meeting and making sure that we had a dopamine release with everyone in the room. And you can do that by
Yeah.
just telling a joke or talking about something you've done on the weekend and the bunch of flowers that you saw as you walked by.
Yeah,
That
some
will
sort of
release that.
story that
Yeah.
can create that relationship. Yeah.
And then imagine oxytocin and being able to release that in your team. Imagine opening people up. And they're actually now measuring that. Paul Zak is doing a lot of work around emotion.
Love him.
Oh, he's amazing. He's just done, and I've got the book here. I won't turn around yet, but I've got a Whoop, right? So that measures, you can do this on an Apple or an anything. He can measure your psychological safety by measuring dopamine and oxytocin release through your cardiovascular system.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. Once you understand what that is, and
Yep.
that you understand that a daily dose of all of those is crucial, you can start to see how you can be in control of that you are putting yourself in the driver's seat. The sunset story is going to stay with me. And I challenge people who are listening to reflect on on the anchors that they create that
Yeah.
allow that state of mind to happen. Because you were talking about going into meetings, but it's also presentations. It's
Oh,
a
everything.
serious or difficult conversation. It's anything like that that isn't quite your normal comfort zone where you're stretching yourself.
Mm.
What are the connections that you're making and the stories that you're telling to release the lovely cocktail that's going to support you? Yeah,
Internal
yeah,
pharmacy, we have it,
yeah,
but we're
well,
not
exactly.
tapping into it.
Yeah,
It's amazing. So
yeah.
here's another piece for people and confidence and career. Did you know that if I was to punch you in the stomach, not that I would, because I'm not violent. I have had violent thoughts. No, I'm not really.
Okay, let's pretend hypothetically you're punching me in the stomach.
I'm
Ow,
punching you in the
yes.
stomach. Yeah, you would go out. What did you do that for? And an area in your brain under an fMRI would light up. And your brain would register, wow, I've just had physical pain. If I bully you, if I socially reject you, if I
Yeah,
use my words poorly, do you know the brain cannot differentiate between physical pain and social rejection? It happens in the same area of the brain. So words matter, but
yeah,
equally, words matter internally. So not only do they matter externally, especially with psychosocial safety and risk and hazards and psychological safety, that we are putting ourselves under immense pressure with our own self-talk. And we've got a saying called take your thoughts to court.
yeah.
And
Nice.
would you say that, honestly, would you really say that to a friend or someone you're coaching, would you say that? And I've now created a wonderful judge that sits up, and you might think that I'm completely crazy, but this is also about mental rehearsal. And I'll talk about the Navy SEALs and what they do. This is so important. This judge, he's very wizened, he's old, he's grumpy, he's got bushy eyebrows. He looks down on me. And now, at the moment that I have a negative thought about self, he bashes, I can literally hear his gavel
The
bash,
gavel hits the
the
board.
gavel, that's the one, hitting the board. And I go, oh my Lord. So it's about creating those triggers and priming
Yeah.
the brain. And when you talk about your career, this is so important for your career so that you can manage not just your own arousal states, but you can help people manage theirs.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. It's a huge topic for a start. And I suppose for me and for the women I work with in Boost Your Career, it's
Mm,
around jump-starting thinking and reflection
yep,
around self-talk and
yep,
self-awareness. And for me, they're the baseline platform for any sort of sustainable change or growth.
mm.
I talk about comfort zone to the growth stage, but you've got to go through fear and then you've got to go through learning. So there are so many stages that we need to talk ourselves through. So if we can play into the structure of the brain, play into the hormones, create new pathways for thinking and new anchors, of course we can increase our confidence because we've got a more solid base to work from. So beautiful, Penny.
Do
Oh,
you, sorry,
now go on, go on.
do you know that we're not born with emotion?
Yeah, it's a funny thing, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
Professor Lisa Foreman Barrett's work on the theory of constructed emotion, how emotions are made. It's a fabulous book. Listen to it rather than read it on
yeah,
Audible. But it's her latest research around how emotions are constructed and why. And they're constructed over the whole brain, not one part. And for
yeah,
every single person, it is different. And
yeah.
so if you don't know what your triggers are, if you're not self-aware, and if you then don't know how to self-regulate, then you know what? You're not even going to be able to end up where you want to because your fear center, your anxiety, that confidence, that's not going to show up. And we want that to show up.
Yeah. I think we want what one of my discoveries over the years has been that people want a fix. They want you to give them a list of 5 things that they
Yeah.
and I just don't believe that personal growth and sustainable growth are like that, because everything comes back to my self-awareness. And I was really happy when you talked about triggers and predictions and things, because self-awareness isn't just understanding me, it's understanding the impact I'm having on others and recognizing. So that whole intent and impact process is dead crucial. But people forget self-awareness is something that has to grow over time. You can't
Yes,
just
it is.
become self-aware at 14 and not do anything since then. Because growth isn't like that. It's like fascinating that we think it's so simple, where in fact it's an incredibly complex. Well, you set up a whole business based on neurocapability. If I asked you very nicely, could we together think of a couple of topics and have you back to talk about a few things? Because
Mm.
Boost looks at holding agency, and I talk about that in terms of self-accountability and self-empowerment. If that's not about self-awareness and neuro capability, then I don't know what is. So I'd love you to come back and have that conversation with us at some point.
I'd
You
love
happy for that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. As you can see, I am quite passionate about this.
Well, look,
And
that's what I love. You are
mm,
passionate about it. We need. There's no. You can't fake passion.
mm,
You can get louder and more excited, but the actual passion comes through in how one approaches a subject. So
mm,
I'm thrilled. Thank you so much for shedding some light on confidence and the neuroscience that goes behind it. Thanks for agreeing to come back. That I'm very excited about. So,
absolutely.
Penny Curnow, thank you so much for being here. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much. And can I just say I love the work that you're doing. And I also love Linda Ray, our founder of NeuroCapability. I just wanted to, I would not be here without her.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, Louise here, and you've been listening to yet another Boost Talk, and I know you loved it. These women are being so generous with their time and their experience and their expertise, and it's great to have their perspective on their career enhancement strategies for women in this post-pandemic hybrid workplace that we find ourselves in. So for more information, head on over to our website, boostyourcareer.com.au, and I'll see you there.